I'm going to show you the process of how we make dog treats out of organ meats. Last year this box was nearly full, and this is a combination of organ meats, liver, heart, kidney, from deer, lamb, pig, and beef. This is all we have left, but today we're going to make some more. Some of this meat that was harvested will be used for making sausage and other dishes, but a good portion of it's going to be run through our freeze dryer today. Let's get started. I'm just trying to get it all cleaned up and dried off. What it looks like here on the kitchen counter. Are you interested? Down. Good girl. Your liver's over here. These are your two hearts, and then we've got kidneys up top. First step in the process is removal of the trays. We like to bring them into the kitchen and get them ready to receive the material that we're getting ready to put on them. We have the large freeze dryer with the oilless pump, and it comes with 5 trays.
Prior to turning on the machine and closing the door, you always want to make sure that the drain valve is open. Once the trays have been removed, close the door, turn on the pump and the back of the machine and allow it to cool down for 15 minutes. Push start. And it needs to cool down for 15 minutes before you can put the trays in. It's important to have the meat the same size so that it has equal drying time.
Yeah, so as I'm cutting this, some of the pieces are a little bit big, but Rebecca's combing through that and doing a little triage here and kicking back the ones that need to be cut a little bit more. One of the things that we experimented with when we first got our machine was they had recommended that you pre-freeze the material on the trays before you put it into the dryer. And although it seemed like that did reduce the amount of drying time, it wasn't significant enough for us to really continue doing that.
Another issue with freezing the trays is they take up a lot of space, and you don't always have enough space to do that.
Yeah, because when our freezers are full with meat, we don't exactly have extra room, so it just kind of is an inconvenience. Most of this meat's pretty well consistently sized. However, it is packed very tightly, and that will work. It will just increase your drying time. Since we do have the room, what Rebecca's going to do is move some of this material around so that we can get a little bit better spacing, which is going to make it dry a little bit quicker for us. Let's go check the freeze dryer to make sure that it's ready to go. Typically, it only takes about 15 minutes for it to cool down. We've been prepping trays now for 43 minutes, and this thing's more than ready to go. It's showing an internal temperature of 18 degrees Fahrenheit, and it basically just tells you to load food into the freeze dryer, close the drain valve, and then once you do that, hit the continue button, and it's going to do its thing.
If you do have trays that have less food on them, they would be best done in the middle or placed in the middle because the top and the bottom cool down the fastest. Thank you. Close the door. Close the drain valve. Make sure it's closed tight. And push continue.
It really depends on what material you're drying, how thick it is, how much moisture there is in it, for how long it's going to take. And the machine is able to assess the moisture content of the material being dried, so it kind of knows how long something should be run based on that. If it needs additional drying time, you can go ahead and select additional drying time. So it's a good idea to check the material to make sure that it's had all the moisture removed from it, because sometimes there could be larger pieces that still have a bit of residual moisture, And that could certainly be a problem if you're going to be storing this for anything long term. It just began vacuum freezing. It's now 8 hours and 9 minutes in, and it's at minus 12 degrees Fahrenheit. It's now the next day, and the unit itself has been running for 18 hours and 38 minutes, and it's no longer vacuum freezing. It's in the drying cycle, and it's been going for 6 hours and 1 minute, and this is the amount of time that it has left to go. You can see the meat inside going through the drying process. That white that you see, and there's ice forming on the inside of the chamber. And it's normal to have condensation on the outside of the gasket. The condensation that forms up here will accumulate, and then it'll start to run down. So we like to put something down here just to catch any drips or anything that might be as a result of all that condensation. Excessive heat is extremely damaging to electronic and mechanical components, and that's one of the reasons why Harvest Right makes it pretty clear that all of these openings, which are cooling ports, these cooling fins, and all of these areas need to be free from obstruction so that there isn't any excessive heat buildup. One of the things that we've started to adopt, because even with those openings not being obstructed and there being adequate clearance around this, in a room that's climate controlled, it still generates a tremendous amount of heat. And so what we've started to do is running just a simple box fan to increase the amount of airflow, and that has dramatically reduced the amount of heat buildup in this dryer itself and the oilless pump. We're at the final stage of the drying process. This unit is set up to have an additional 2 hours of drying time. So this is 36 minutes left on that 2 hours of extra drying time. And we're at a total of 55 hours and 38 minutes. But it's kind of getting late this evening. It's about 10:30 at night. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an additional 8 hours, so it'll continue drying throughout the night, and we'll deal with it in the morning. It's the next morning and the process is complete, and what that additional drying time really helps to ensure is just there's not going to be any moisture left in any of the material by adding that amount of additional drying time. When the process is complete, it prompts you with some different options. You can either add more dry time, or you can hit the defrost button, which will defrost all the ice from the internal chamber. Or what we typically do is we just allow it to naturally melt, and we'll press the no defrost to bleed off the internal pressure. The ice on the inside of the chamber will just drain out into this bucket. Go ahead and shut the unit off. And shut off the pump. You could store this in Mylar for something a little more long term, but we wind up using these within the year, and we'll store them in just food saver bags, vacuum seal them. Now that we've got this all processed up, the only step that is remaining is just to label it as what it is and date it. As we get more animals processed throughout the year, we'll continually add to this supply. These raw dog snacks are an incredibly healthy option for your four-legged friend and extremely easy to make. And if you're interested in learning more about Harvest Right, feel free to use our link in the description. Please consider subscribing to this channel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.